Develop a fortune state of mind, state of mind. It's time for a date with, time for a date with the Dorseys.
Hello.
Hello.
And hello. Welcome to another date with the Dorseys. I am Dr. Jatan and
I am Floyd Dorsey the fourth.
Hence the date with the Dorseys. We are back for another episode, another week to show you, lead you, guide you to a fortunate state of mind.
Absolutely. It's all about the fortunate state of mind.
Which entails the 5 F's, as you know, that we typically align our topics with. And as we always say, if you don't know what the 5 F's are, you got to catch up.
You got to go back.
You got to set up a day and do some binge listening.
It's probably about 20 episodes ago, right?
We're almost at 20, so
almost at 20.
We've got to celebrate when we get to that 20th one.
It's going to be a good one.
Yes, absolutely. So today's topic is judgment is good, but not being judgmental. And if you know, for this month of March, we have been focusing on relationships. So our topics are aligned with that. So as you can tell, and as I'm sure you're excited to hear, many of us deal with or have dealt with judgment in our relationships.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Is it contagious? Is it a virus?
I don't know what's going on.
But
judgment is everywhere.
It is. It's absolutely everywhere. And what I like to think about when I talk about and think about judgment is the fact that it's built from a lot of our experiences that we've had over the years in the past, whether it be childhood, young adult, just experiences that we've had, right? They create these emotional triggers, so to say.
Right.
That in our adult life and in our relationships, it could be the smallest thing that happens that triggers a reminder of that.
Well, no,
Right.
I'm not going back there. It's not going to happen
Exactly.
again. But you know, the important part, as we said in the title, judgment is good. And throughout life, you make judgment calls.
Yeah.
You had to, before you met your significant other, you had to make certain decisions or judgments, or whether if it's a cost-benefit analysis, it's measuring pros and cons, cause and effect, whatever it may be, you had to sit down and deliberate and make the best decision or judgment to choose the person you're going to be with.
Absolutely.
To choose your profession, to choose the college or school, you know, all these different choices, you had to do some form of judging. However, being judgmental is now you've owned that as your role, title, and embodied that as your person, that in your relationship, you're being judgmental. And again, as we stated earlier, it could be some triggers from, you know, other relationships, other jobs, or
baggage, as they call it these days. That baggage, you know, who was it? Erykah Badu explained it best. Bag lady. We got some bag men too. But you carrying a lot.
Well, we do. We really do.
You do. Carrying a lot of things, old stuff, while you're trying to accumulate new stuff. But you just can't, you haven't made room to receive the new and the better because you're holding on to that baggage.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that baggage really can weigh you down. So just be mindful of that as you're dealing with things that you absolutely have to judge, right? Like I said, judgment is good, but being judgmental is something you want to be mindful of. But one thing I will call out is that mistakes happen, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes bad choices are made, maybe not the best decisions in any relationship, you know, whether if it's something related to work or hanging with friends or whatever it may be, those things do occur, right? But again, when those mistakes happen, it's when it happens, the thing is now what are you going to do about it, right? And that's what we're going to talk about today. You know, what do you do when the mistake is on the table? It's out there. We have to deal with it.
Because it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Trust me.
Right.
It will happen. So what do you do? Right? And I'm always one to try to make amends with whatever is going on so that whatever happens, it doesn't define the person or the relationship, right? The mistake should not be now the true definition of what that relationship is.
Or who that person is.
Or who that person is. Because if it does, and that type of person is a person you wouldn't want to be with, and that's a permanent definition that you've assigned to that person, then I don't see any hope for that particular relationship in that state.
Right.
or for that person as you're looking at that person, right? And so you'll see a lot of people go their separate ways because the inability to overcome that obstacle or that mistake that was made.
Yeah, so they get stuck in that world. Well, actually, that mistake becomes their world.
That mistake is the world,
Right.
right? Everything.
And it's the end of the world, really, for that relationship, because now this thing is so big to me, not just, because it happened, but because, again, it goes back to that trigger that we talked about earlier. It could have been that one thing that you experienced in a previous relationship or one thing that you experienced in your childhood that gave you this bad experience. So now it takes you back to then, although this is a new situation, a different person.
That's it.
And we are adults now, right?
And what do we do with that trigger, right? That trigger or that mistake, we play it over and over.
Oh,
so not only do we live it,
it becomes our story.
and we have to play it
Yes.
several times over. No matter how great things are, you will replay that story just to say, well, he probably is going to do that again, or oh, here he goes again. Or no matter how great things are going, you say, just wait. He's probably just doing this, and I'm just waiting for
that one moment when he trips again.
Or things can be going extremely well, but they make that one mistake, and it's see there, I knew it was in you. I knew it's who you were all along. And no matter how the great things I've done, I make one mistake, and now that's really become who I am and who we are as a couple in a relationship.
And then that other person has gone on with their lives, right? They're thinking everything is good. We've gotten over it. We've moved past it. While the judgmental portion or person of the relationship is still thinking every day, just wait. I know he's going to do it or she's going to do it again. Right?
I'm going to find it.
So they're not living.
No, it's
they're
not
every
healthy.
day watching and waiting on something bad to happen.
It's not healthy at all.
Right.
So we do have a few points that we'd like to make to help overcome some of those challenges. And number one, as I always will recommend, is own the mistake. If it happens, own it, reconcile, and then do better, right? Do better and find ways to just let it go. And I know it sounds simple with me just stating that. However, every relationship has their own dynamics, which makes that relationship unique. Within that uniqueness, you should have a way of which you deal with challenges in which the way you reconcile, right? My relationship will be totally different in how we reconcile to someone else. So I can't be as prescriptive. I can give you some ideas or some tips on things that we employ. However, I think every relationship in its own unique way should have key ways on which they reconcile and overcome different challenges. But you have to find a way to let it go. It's the bottom line.
Yeah. And I think the challenge for many is not it is partially letting it go because they tend to hold on to it. So then they become more defensive than taking the lead to say, okay, I did mess up. I did this wrong. This is what I'm going to do better. I apologize. And so we can move past this. Instead, it can become a bigger argument because you don't want to live up to that thing that you did wrong.
That's it.
Right.
And owning up to it is
Right.
key. And especially when you're someone that doesn't like to make mistakes. Oh, man, I never mess up. It is just hard for me to accept that. Or, I know some people grew up in childhood. They could never do no wrong or probably was even said that. And that's the spirit or the idea of themselves that they take into adulthood and into their relationships. So no matter what I do, I can do no wrong. But, fact of the matter is, it's not for me to decide on what's right and wrong. I would say that if it's violating the principles of that relationship, then I would consider that wrong in terms of that relationship, right? So again, that would have to be defined by the rules, as we talked about last time,
I was just going to say that,
of the relationship. So if it is that violation, then you have to honor and recognize that, hey, I made a mistake. And finding a way to reconcile so that we can let go.
Right.
However, in some cases, that just really won't get it done. Right? So we have to move to the next step.
Yes. Got to have options.
And that is to develop a plan on just like you are at work, right? If a mistake is made at work, or if you're not performing as you should at work, then you have to develop a improvement plan, a way to improve it. And I think that plan, one, should be owned by both parties, because my mistake will also impact you too. And just because I'm getting better, I'm doing well, I'm reconciling, I am letting go, you were affected and impacted by that too. So me improving, and if you're still in that old state, it's not going to progress the relationship.
Right.
While it'll help me, right, as an individual, but unfortunately, I'm not the only one in the relationship. It's two people. And so you have to come together and work together on that, whatever that improvement plan is.
And so, since you mentioned plans with work, tying it back to that, then I would also recommend to identify some measurements for those plans and those goals that you have, because you want to hold each other accountable, right? But you want to have a time frame in which, okay, we want to achieve this by this time. Otherwise, it could be ongoing. You're unable to track it. You're unable to identify that maybe this plan isn't really what we need to put in place to fix this issue. Let's go back and reassess and change that thing, right?
And that's okay, right? If the plan you put in place wasn't the best plan, again, you're making judgment calls. It's a judgment, and we do it every day. So that's perfectly fine to go back and say, now let's revisit that, because this approach that we're taking, this is not it. You said you were going to send me flowers every week, and you were going to take me to dinner every week to make up for this. However, money is a little bit low.
Okay.
So that may not be the best plan to reconcile or to rekindle. And I know in some cases to rekindle or rebuild that trust and build that love back into that relationship.
Right.
And so you have to be realistic and then put a plan together that's going to work for the both of you.
Yeah. You never know what will come out of that, because it may help the other person grow as well. To your point, it may not be a mistake that they made, but if you work together in that development plan, then it could be something that comes out of it for the two of you, for each of you individually.
Certainly. And I'll tell you that I grow so much from my wife's mistakes that you wouldn't believe it.
You always got to throw your girl out there.
I'm just saying.
You always just think he is perfect. He goes to bed on time. He's never out late. Yeah.
I just work and come home.
The truth will come out.
Work and come home and hand over my paycheck. And that's it,
sure. Which takes us to the next point. And that is,
you want to find out what's behind the pain. In some cases, that person still, we really still can't get past it. All right, Floyd and Dr. Jatone, we tried step 1, we tried step 2. But for some reason, I just can't let it go, and we can't get past it. And that's where you have to dig a little bit deeper on this, because it sounds like whatever you're dealing with or whatever that trauma or that mistake was, it triggered something fairly deep. And you must go behind the pain.
Right.
That keeps you from holding back on opening yourself up to reconciling with the person. Which
goes back to the story we mentioned earlier. What is it that you have replaying in your mind, right?
Over and
over again, that you've believed or been convinced within your own self and your own mind that this thing is wrong, right? Or that, this person is doing me wrong intentionally because they did it. Not even knowing that it's something that maybe your pet peeve or something that you've dealt with in the past.
That's it.
So they could be just living out what they believe to be their best self.
That's it.
Not knowing, because you haven't communicated this experience that you had that has traumatized you, and now any little thing could trigger it. So I think that also goes back to communication, so that between the two of you, maybe as you grow in a relationship, you begin to grow and learn more, but you should have these conversations so that you'll know what those trigger points are for you.
That's it.
Right?
Agreed.
So that as you progress as a couple, these things come up. It's not like, oh gosh, we got to go back and dig up in the archives and what's really going on.
Let me dust off this old pain and bring this out. Yeah.
Yes.
I got to find some new pain for you, because I have some buried from years. But it makes me think of, in some cases, what you'll find is that, let's say I went out one night and I didn't come home till 5 o'clock in the morning. Now, if that's a violation to our rules of our relationship, then that's going to be a problem, right? I'm out till 5 in the morning or whatever it may be, no matter what I'm doing. And let's just say, for the sake of this story, I'm out and I'm actually just out working, right? I found the job. Sometimes it keeps me late. It kept me later than normal. I don't know what kind of job that is, but whatever it is, right? But let's just say I'm working or I'm doing something from a business standpoint to help, right? And I came home, no matter what I said, trying to explain it, I did all that. And Dr. Jatan just wouldn't believe me. No, I'm not having it. It just don't make sense. And she's holding on to it. And what you'll probably find is once you start to dig deeper in it is that Dr. Jatan, or not her per se, but she may have grown up where she saw her father out many nights late and cause hurt and pain to her mother. And that pain that she seen her mother go through, she was able to connect and identify because it began to hurt her and hurt the family. And ultimately that action that her father was doing actually split up the family and left her to be alone with her mother and felt deprived and abandoned. And so what you don't realize is that your action of just being out late that one time triggered something all the way back to her on being abandoned when she was a little child from her father being out late at night. Now, again, this is all just a made-up story, but I wanted to give you this analogy to help drive home the point on digging deep and finding what's behind that pain. And so from there, that's where you start to have to build the solutions to repair, because what you did is not even really about you at that point. It's about something deeper in her. And I'm not a counselor in that degree, to that length to say, come to us for counseling, for that level of counseling. But I do recommend to finding someone that can help the relationship, help repair whatever that is, that damage that was caused to her from that trauma that she may have experienced at that point in time.
Which is why, even before you get to those points, that it should be things that you deal with individually before you join with another person, because you're, again, carrying that baggage into a relationship if you haven't yet dealt with it. First off, realizing that you have that problem or that you're carrying that baggage so that you'll know that you do need help to overcome that. And even then, it'll still be a process and there still may be triggers, but at least you'll be prepared and you know how to deal with, or better deal with, those situations if they come.
If they come.
Or should I say when? Because it'll be something.
It's going to be something.
It's something.
No matter how big or how small it's going to, it
Right.
is. I mean, the thing is that whenever you're in a relationship, you're bringing two uniquely different people together and saying, now form a life. And there's truly, I wouldn't say it's a full rule book that's out there that's going to make it perfect. And even if there were, I'm sure we'll still fall short of some of those things. Mm-hmm. So when you're colliding two lives to make them one, things will come up, things will happen. But the commitment to one another and to the better sake of the relationship, I'm certain that you can overcome them, as we will overcome anything that we face together.
Yeah.
So to bring home and recap on some of the points we made, one of the first ones, whenever that mistake happens, we talked about number one is own the mistake, try to reconcile, and do better and commit to doing better and let it go. Now, at times that probably just won't get it done. So then you want to develop some type of improvement plan and commit to it. And if you can do that, truly commit and don't be afraid to go back and readjust the plan if necessary. And the third and final point is find out what's behind the pain. After the first two steps, you're still struggling to get through it. We got to go deeper behind that pain. And if both parties are committed to going deeper and really finding out what's really the trauma that's driving that pain to manifest continuously, my recommendation there will maybe consider counseling if you're able to identify it or unable to. That can help solution that deep trauma that may have been experienced many years before the relationship even started.
Awesome. So, be judgmental. Or what is it? It's good to be.
It's good. Judgment is good.
Judgment is good.
But not being judgmental.
Not being judgmental. So make sure you apply these points. Share this podcast out. We want to make sure that we get this out to the masses, and you're not being stingy with this information.
Oh, yeah. Please share. Please share. Food for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. So make sure that you also, as usual, email us any ideas, any feedback, any testimonials to support@fortuneenterprise.com. And again, it's IVTUNE.com. I'm sorry, Enterprise. You got to add the enterprise to that. So IVTUNE enterprise.com. And we finally claimed some real estate on Facebook. So we do have a Facebook page. Uh-oh. Make sure that you go there and like our page. It's at Fortune Enterprise as well. So we hope to see you there. All of our podcasts will be first posted there. So you will be you have quick access there. You have immediate access.
Just
so
click on,
yes,
enjoy.
and you never know what you'll get in between time. So you make sure you follow us there. So again, this has been yet another Date with the Dorseys. We hope you have an awesome rest of your week. Bye for now.
Develop a fortune state of mind, state of mind. It's time for a date with, time for a date with the Dorseys.